The Sierra Leone Bar Association is at a crossroads since the elections in Kenema last year, reflecting a more partisan environment that resembles more like a campaign of battleground between the SLPP and the APC. And the entanglement of the SLPP and APC within the association has created formidable obstacles in the quest to cultivate impartial platforms, with the judiciary highlighting the pressing need for unity and integrity in the pursuit of justice. Now, this morning, we're going to discuss the controversies surrounding the Bar Association. In the studio, we have Abdul Fatoma, Chief Executive, Campaign for Human Rights and Development International, and Victor Idrissa Lansana Esquire, Secretary General, Legal Council, which is a regulating body for lawyers. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
It would be good to start with Victor. Let's start from the reputation of the Bar Association and the image of the profession as lawyers itself since the Kenema AGM last year to now.
Well, thanks for having me in the program. We find ourselves in a very unfortunate situation as a company, the Bar Association company. For a very long time, I have to be very frank, for a very long time, a good number of the membership of the bar have not actually been satisfied with how the association or the executive members of the association, have been carrying out the functions in terms of making sure that they address issues relating to governance. And so there has been kind of a pent-up anger over the years. I've been with that for like 10 years now, so I know exactly what I'm saying. We have had elections over the years where members really felt aggrieved, very, very angry. And we've had also situations where the general membership would want the executive to take some very critical decisions on national issues, but those decisions are not forthcoming. So, like I said, it has been a pent-up anger for a very long time. And what happened in Kenema is just like the last straw, that actually broke the camel's back. And like I said, it's unfortunate, and all of us, as lawyers, should bow our heads in shame, because it does not represent the profession. All of you saw the videos, how lawyers were at each other's throat, how, the conduct itself generally was really, really very much unprofessional, and it was done in few view of the public, because cameras were all over the place. So it's a regrettable moment, and it is the responsibility of the new executive to try to clean up the image of that, of the reputation of the bar, because there is a very serious cloud hanging now over the Bar Association. And so it calls for maturity, it calls for unity, it calls for candor, making sure that the executive reaches out to other members who are aggrieved and get them to understand the need for unity and the need for them to understand the mandate that the bar has got, because that mandate is over and above the petty jealousies, not jealousies, the petty things that actually are happening within the association. The mandate is over and above the rivalry, because we should be actually serving the people, and normally we say we are the conscience, the constitutional conscience of the people. So it's a very serious mandate that calls for seriousness, and not we've got a splinter group within the bar, Lawyer Society. I was in Nigeria when I followed, they were launching their association. But it's a very challenging moment, and I call on the Bar Association and then other members, or those who have formed another organization, to really think of the bigger picture to see the need for them to come together and, map the way forward. We've seen a much more bigger, dissatisfaction if you go to the national stage, the SLPP and the APC. Your intro, I felt ashamed, by the way, by your intro when you tried so hard to, picture the whole scenario as between SLPP and APC, like a battleground, the way you put it. So we all should feel ashamed that this is the situation, and it's true. I mean, it should really hurt everybody, and we must come together. We must come together as a group, and it's 100% literate society. So it's not like
that's one of the most interesting.
Exactly. Without any disrespect, to say, these are
our learned colleagues acting very unlearned.
So that is why I said it's a professional society, a literate society that I think and I believe they should be able to come together and address the issues. So even when the disagreement occurred between SLPP and APC from the national front, at least the fun ways and means, to come together to be able to, negotiate, address the issues, although there are still dissatisfactions, but at least they were able to come together and there were outcomes of those negotiations. That is what I expected the Bar Association to do. And by the way, we as the statutory body that regulates the legal profession, we made an effort to bring the parties together to be able to talk to them and see reason why they should work together. But
this is spiraling out of control so fast.
Yeah.
From the disagreement in Kenema to, now a parallel body. There's Bar Association, there's Law Society. And what we've seen, the drama, getting the police involved, preventing emergency meeting, with the situation now, Law Society is saying that their speaker allegedly had a visit from the ambassador in Kenya and was delivered a letter from the Secretary to President that her security would not be guaranteed if she gets to Sierra Leone. How bad is this getting right in front of our eyes, Fatoma?
Quickly on that, sorry, please. Quickly. I have seen the letter that the speaker wrote, the keynote speaker wrote to the Lawyers Society. I've read it, and I did not see where she made mention of any security concerns, or, what you've put out right now, to say she was prevented from coming through a letter by the Secretary to President to say your security will not be guaranteed. No, I've not seen that. What I've read is that they were intervening.
In the studio, we've also been joined by Augustine Sorie-Sengbe Marrah. He's in our studio too, and we'll get to him in a moment. This is going off of an interview that he had on our sister channel, Liberty TV Online, and there are posts of that. But Fatoma, how bad is all of this getting right in front of our eyes?
Well, protection of human rights and criminal justice are core elements in a rule of law system. And any governance system that really don't respect the fundamental provisions in the rule of law are doomed to deflective. Yeah, and the allegation, if it is true, and as serious as it is, we should be able now, as members of the public, to really glance at the evidence or anchors like you, if still we want to sanction it as a confidential information, producers like you, if there is an evidence, tangible one, you should be able to lay hands on it. So basically, we may not be talking based on speculation, based on emotions. We need to be speaking from the positions of fact. But however, the current situation going on in Sierra Leone is deeply emotional by people, both members of the public and government, and also the professional bodies that are involved into this. From my own perspective, I see nothing wrong for us to have another body that caters for the welfare of the membership, because the primary aim of bar association globally,
But should that be the right thing? Every time there's a disagreement, you form a parallel body.
No, I mean, let me conclude, then you can definitely draw a question from there. The primary objective of having bar association globally, or lawyer society globally, or regionally, nationally, is to, one, look into the welfare of the membership, their membership, looking into the welfare. Secondly, contributing towards a quality legal education in their jurisdictions or country they find themselves. Thirdly, protecting the fundamental human right of their membership and public interests. Also contribute towards reform of the laws. Over the years, we have seen the shift of the Sierra Leone Bar Association than some of these core values. Like, for example, you take a look at the International Bar Association set up in 1947. One of the primary aims also to help the UN Charter globally to foster peace and, protection and other things. And now when we are part of it, when I was in Europe before England left, when I returned to Africa, I moved from the Europe, chapter now to the African chapter. But the fundamental thing is month after month, we have a lot of opportunities to update ourselves, meaning they are empowering us. And they have interest over their membership, the welfare of their membership. Coming back home, take a look at how the law of this country recognizes the Sierra Leone Bar Association. So the disadvantages are any other parallel organization have to face huge challenge to get to governance table directly. I don't mean indirectly, directly. For example, the Constitution recognized the Bar Association member to sit at statutory institutions. We have another Act of Parliament recognizing the Bar Association in their provision, getting their members to sit at governance table, to have a direct conversation, meaning using this other premise I laid to contribute towards legal reform, contributes towards empowering education, of their members. So, what are we saying here? Now you have the lawyer society. And looking at their aims and objective, and looking at their constitution, there is an area where they close the gap upon themselves. Already, there are barriers for them to actually get to the table, to sit at governance level and have a conversation. And bar association, lawyer society across the globe, even at continental level, one of the fundamental essences to have a position. And by the way, an independent bar is an indispensable and free from any interference under a rule of law state. So it doesn't mean that you have these privileges and provisions. You can compromise the integrity and the value of the bar. So, but for us here, we have looked at trade unions, associations, as a way how political parties, sympathizers, core heart supporters, laying hands on this, so the informations that could we possibly come out from this institution as a pressure group, they would not be that pressure group. So with that, political parties, like your introduction, are now having a field day.
Fatoma, apologies
yes,
to come in. One of the responsibility of such bodies in Sierra Leone, one will say, is to champion what they call constitutionalism. And again, it's a body that, of course, seeks to see ways to, it demands for courage and that of integrity. At some point in time, you spoke of integrity. Do you think it's one of the problems that has landed these bodies in the position where they are at the moment?
Well, primarily the Bar Association primary objective should not be around constitutionality issues, because generally there are other concerns, both for their members and the general public on public interest.
I said it's one amongst the many issues.
These are things that borders around constitutional provisions. So because this is within the field of the Bar Association, it's quite easy for them as a civil society group to assemble the best brain to look at certain disadvantaged position of their membership and some part of the general public, and then goes to the Supreme Court, either for an interpretation or neither go to the High Court for, judicial review, on administrative issues. If they think that someone in the executive have stepped overboard. So these are concerns, and these concerns borders not only the general public, but also their members. So like I said, primarily, the fundamental objective, the first fundamental objective is for any bar or law society thinks about the welfare of the membership and things that borders. And secondly, you have the law reforms. Then you talked about integrity. Yes. We are now in a country where you have, okay, let's take, for example, the Lawyer Society. There is 23 of their objective talks about receiving money from people, individuals, and institutions in good faith. And then somewhere in their constitutions, they said they are not allowed to take money from government. But let's say Sierra Leone Commercial Bank, a government corporation, is an institution, and gives you that money, or Roque Commercial Bank sponsor a public interest that the Roque Commercial Bank thinks that they thought it fit to support such an initiative. So because in one of your documents you said no money from government. Who is government? So then you said no one should receive support from a politician for vying in any position. Then what about that individual having a political ambition, registered political person, but he or she is not a political frontliner, and give a support? So what does that mean as individual giving money to you in good faith? The problem we have is that both institutions have huge challenges with the word democracy and governance. Let me tell you this. Having a bar association that opts to know better, the current Company Act that we are under, and the current M&A that governs this very bar association, there is no alignment. So the members of the bar association should be able to enjoy the privilege and the provisions that we have in the corporate affairs guidelines as to how companies should have their M&A. And that one is lacking. How can you have, 1,000 members and you just have a law that says 6 people can form a quorum? Come on, man. As we were growing with the law, the bar should have as well. So if you cannot help to reform your own law, why do you want to rely on you to actually help us at national level to help us reform national laws? So that's the problem with the Sierra Leone Bar Association. And the issues are many.
Okay. Well, Fatoma, I think we hold it there. As you really mentioned, I think the issues indeed are many. But nonetheless, as earlier introduced, we do have Leone Marrah, who is in our studio too. He's the president for Lawyer Society Sierra Leone. Leone Marrah, it's a pleasure having you this morning.
Oh, thank you.
Should I start by saying congratulations?
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Just a confirmation. Will you confirm to us a letter which was alleged to have been submitted to Madam Faith, the president for Kenya Law Society, from senior stakeholders within Sierra Leone on security not being guaranteed in Sierra Leone?
Thank you very much. I think I personally had that conversation with Madam Faith. As a matter of fact, we had invited her to keynote our very first annual general meeting, and I went to Nairobi sometime in early February and had an opportunity to speak to her to confirm our commitment to come to Sierra Leone, which she did. So some 2 days before the event, she called me on the phone to say that the acting ambassador to Kenya had gone to her office summarizing that if she were to come to Sierra Leone, our safety and security would not be guaranteed by the government of Sierra Leone. She took that very seriously, as a matter of fact. So she got on the phone with me, narrated what transpired between herself and the acting ambassador, and what she requested of me then was to speak to the Attorney General to confirm whether such a position was the position of the government of Sierra Leone. As soon as that telephone conversation ended, I jumped on a call with the Attorney General, who confirmed to me on the phone that that was not a position of the government of Sierra Leone. He also offered to speak to the keynote speaker just to confirm that our safety and security would not be in jeopardy. I mean, long story short, I mean, she was hoping to have a confirmation in writing, since she took the threats and intimidation very, very seriously. Unfortunately, we could not get that written confirmation of assurance of her security from the Attorney General. So long story short, she had to weigh the odds, and came to a conclusion that it would be safer for her to deliver a keynote virtually than risk coming into a country in which the acting ambassador had specifically warned her not to come, because, quoting her, she said to me that the acting ambassador said that he was in fact sent by the secretary to president, and she in fact not just said the secretary to the president, but in fact she said the name of the secretary to the president, Emmanuel Gaema, in that telephone conversation. So she took that seriously, especially because the acting ambassador said that in fact she was being used by a group of lawyers who were opposition lawyers, who were seeking to foment political trouble, who were seeking to stir political revolution in Sierra Leone. So she had to weigh the odds. And noting that there is no Kenyan embassy in Sierra Leone, she said, and that was her calculation, that she would do it virtually and stay away from the threats and the dangers that she had been forewarned about. So that was essentially the conversation that we had. Unfortunately, and this is in our own estimation and calculation, when she sent the letter to, when she addressed the letter to me, because I mentioned to her that I would have to go back to my membership to explain the reason why she would not make it. I mean, she sent to me a diplomatic letter which says in summary that she could not come because of what she described as supervening circumstances. And as lawyers, we know that supervening circumstances could mean heavy snow, it could mean risk to life and limb and liberty, etc., etc. It could mean anything. Why she chose to be diplomatic in that letter is entirely a conversation a decision for her. But I had that conversation. She had a conversation with the Attorney General of the Republic of Sierra Leone. And the same apprehension that she had, the same concern, were conveyed to the Attorney General. So nobody's making up stories. I can be quoted on any day because I had that conversation. I had a conversation with the Attorney General, and the Attorney General had a conversation with her. And after our conversation with the Attorney General, she called me almost towards midnight and narrated what transpired in that conversation between herself and the Attorney General.
How low do you think was such a move?
I think this fits very easily into the narrative that we increasingly have a shrinking civic space. I have been in this space for too long, and I understand when the space is shrinking increasingly. We had a situation recently of a foreign journalist who reported that she had to be ferried across the waters during the night. So all of these put together, what media folks face on a daily basis, would tell you that if you have a government that would want to allow critical and dissenting voices to ply their trade easily, they would go out of the way to ensure that whether it's a group of persons, whether it's individuals, that space, that civic space is guarded, expanded, and it's not shrunk. So this fits into the narrative that freedom of expression is increasingly coming under attack, and contrary to the promises that were made by the new direction government, that they would ensure that they would depart from the acts and conduct of the previous regime. So I don't think that activists or journalists should be grappling with government over expression. We don't want to see a situation in which gadgets of journalists are being confiscated, and there's so much intrusion into their work. We live in a democracy. Democracy demands that there should always be critical voices, because government does not have a monopoly of knowledge or ideas. They should ensure that those who hold powers to account are able to do their work without fear, without intimidation, and without threats hovering around them. Because that was what was done to our keynote speaker, which prevented her from coming to Sierra Leone. And we had made all logistical arrangements. You can look up the price of a business class ticket from Kenya to Sierra Leone. Had been bought, accommodation sorted out, chaperone arranged, everything. So we're talking about loss of monies and resources and time, as a matter of fact. And we don't want to live in a democracy where the acting ambassador would leave his business and drive all the way to the keynote speaker and then, assail her with threats and intimidation, and thereby disrupting a process and depriving members of a one-on-one conversation that they could have had with the keynote speaker.
Augustine, let's look at the picture, the bigger picture, the labeling and tagging of both associations now. Conveniently, it's been pegged that the Sierra Leone Bar Association is the SLPP wing and Lawyers Society is the APC wing. It's showing a picture now that it's the broader national politics, the APC and SLPP fight, that has descended to lawyers in the form of Sierra Leone Bar Association and Lawyers Society. Your society that you're president of, has been accused of being the APC wing.
I think, Fabian, that's an easy narrative. This binary argument about everything should be APC and SLPP. If you know me, you know that I have, hyperbolically, 1 million friends in the SLPP. I have never been a member of any political party in this country. Never, ever. Never joined any WhatsApp group of any political party, right? The point I'm making is that members do, and I agree with my brother Abdul Fatoma, who said that there's every right for persons to come together, form an assembly, form an organization, and you know, pursue a common interest. There's every right. But I think what has been done, and this has been the practice of politicians, once they want to silence critical groups, what they do is to send out these labels indiscriminately. Obona APC people, Obona SLPP people. And you know what that does to good people who don't want to be tagged is that they would then excuse themselves from good causes. So for far too long, good people have sat on the fence because they do not like the labels, right? So it is that very narrative that we're pushing back to say, no, lawyers have a right to form alternative bodies. They're not parallel. At some point, we would support the Bar Association once it is sanitized. As things stand now, we have an action in the High Court. We'll await the outcome of that action. But we're not seeking as a lawyer society.
Sorry, let's get clarity on that. What action do you have in the court?
Well, I mean, I think you've spoken a lot about the Kenema incident.
Okay, so it's on the
yes, on the Kenema incident, and I think we're all familiar with all the...
Now that's quite an interesting part, yes. Actually, Sorie. You have challenged that at court level. Why the need to form lawyers' society? Do we run to form a parallel association organization every time there's a challenge with one body? How does that solve the problem?
I think a slight correction there. So we did not run to court. As a matter of fact, when we came back, when some members, I mean, I'm talking about hundreds of members, came back and they thought that what transpired in Kenema should not represent the collective lawyers. You know, what they did was to summon, summon an extraordinary general meeting. And during that meeting, we know the event at New Brookfield Hotel, the police closed the hall, and you know we had to hold that EGM pretty much along the Jomo Kenyatta Road. So the resolution was let's form a caretaker body that will sanitize the Bar Association, conduct free, credible, democratic elections, and then we can have a leadership that represents the will of the people. Unfortunately, once that was formed, some tiny group of people hurriedly went to court to slam an injunction on that caretaker body. But mind you, this is what I've said severally, that the discussion and the notion of the lawyer society had started many years ago. Many senior lawyers will tell you that in the early 90s, mid-90s, there were a number of conversations around the setup of the lawyer society. But they always say that necessity is the mother of invention.
So last year, Augustine, you had other alternatives as members of the Sierra Leone Bar Association. If you feel aggrieved about the conduct of an elections process, you still haven't answered the why form lawyers society.
I think
getting a parallel association.
I think I was getting to the point, because I think what is important is the fact that once we're talking about constitutional rights, fundamental freedoms, you can't question if somebody were to wake up one morning and say, we want to form lawyers, which is a female group of lawyers. You can't question them. You can't say, oh, don't we have enough structure within the Bar Association? Why would you form lawyers? You know, separate entity for women, you know, female lawyers. Why would you form legal link? You know, Rashid Dumbuya. Don't we have enough room within the Sierra Leone Bar Association? The fact of the matter is, once you have constitutional rights...
But those were not formed after a disagreement over an election conduct.
Yes, what I'm saying in essence is that there's always...
And all the leaders we see now in Lawyers Society are lawyers who were candidates for the Bar Association elections that you say had its own issues that it had.
Absolutely, absolutely. Fabian, I think if we were to go back,
no, the point I'm trying to make, Augustine, is the example with lawyers, legal link, perhaps does not fit in context.
No,
of
I was
this
talking
situation.
about I was talking about the plural organizations that we have within the legal landscape, and to say that there's no way we can put a lead on the number of organizations that can be formed. Why they were formed, out of what circumstances, can be a conversation altogether. Another conversation altogether. But the fact of the matter is there's enough space for other groups to emerge. Right?
Then what happens,
and by the way, like,
Augustine,
may I just
what
finish
happens
this?
in that space when, if you get to a point where you feel like the issues you had with the Sierra Leone Bar Association have been resolved, perhaps even if it's leadership issue, there's a change of leader, an individual or individuals that you think are doing things according to your principles, what becomes of Lawyers Society and the Sierra Leone
It would
Bar
continue
Association?
because they are alternative bodies. So members do have a right to belong to the Bar Association. By the way, I'm still a member of the Bar Association. By the way, the 400 lawyers who are lawyers of the Lawyers Society are still members of the Bar Association. We have not, nobody has resigned from the Bar Association as far as my recollection is concerned. Nobody has resigned. We're still members of the Bar Association, so you can belong to either or both. What we're seeking to do is to create an opportunity for lawyers to have multiple choices. You can decide to be a member of the lawyers, you can decide to be a member of the Lawyers Society or the Bar Association or both, right? And even if things were to, sanity were to be restored at the Bar Association, the Lawyers Society would continue to do its work. It is an institution that we have erected to be one of the pillars of governance in this country. It is not intended to silence or close doors on the Bar Association. It is intended to be an alternative to the Sierra Leone Bar Association. We have never said to our members, do not participate in the bar, do not continue your membership at the Bar Association. We have only said, some of us who are members of the Bar Association, that we do not recognize the leadership who had imposed themselves on members and would await the outcome of the courts. So even if the outcome of the courts were in our favor, the Lawyers Society would continue to be one of the institutions now in the legal landscape. And I think a lot of people have spoken about, oh, it's the APC versus the SLPP divide. No. What people should concern themselves about should be the work, the mission, the mandate of the Lawyers Society. I know it's very early days, but come back in a year, come back in 2 years, and look at the Lawyers Society. And then you would then be able to scrutinize and tell us whether we have been able to live up to the expectations and the promises that we have set up for ourselves, right? So those labels, we should stay away from them and ensure that you scrutinize and assess people based on their outputs, because I think these are easy labels that we can throw about all the time. Many people have suffered these labels. What we want to do is to have an institution that is credible and to have an institution that becomes one of the foremost watchdogs of democracy in Sierra Leone. And that is our focus.
It is very difficult to say the formation of the Lawyers Society is not as a result of the hullabaloo that ensued in Kenema. But again, at this moment, are you in a haste for reintegration?
I think I've made this point abundantly clear that we are not at loggerheads with the Bar Association. Some members of the Bar Association are aggrieved about what occurred in Kenema. There is no dispute between Lawyers Society and the Sierra Leone Bar Association. The dispute is an intra-dispute in the Sierra Leone Bar Association. Some members were and are still very aggrieved about what occurred in Kenema, and that matter is in court. Once that is sorted, the Bar Association is sanitized, members elect a legitimate executive the Lawyers Society would work with the Bar Association, would promote the Bar Association's ideals, would collaborate with the Bar Association, and would pursue common ideals with the Bar Association. Our intention is not to cancel out the Bar Association. Our intention is to provide multiple choices for lawyers to associate and for lawyers to pursue their common interest.
Victor Lansana, the body that you're representing is one of the regulating body of lawyers' operations and activities in the country. Where do you think this regulating body is getting it wrong to see ways to ensure that a once unified body is now at loggerhead?
You see, I stated here that the Bar Association is 100% literate community, and for us, we believe in the Constitution. So it is a constitutional provision for people to assemble, to form associations, and promote their interest. But then,
do you recognize Lawyer Society?
When you say do you,
I mean
the GLC,
yeah, of course,
the General Legal Council.
Sure.
Well, you see, there is not about recognition here. Like Mr. Fatoma said earlier on, the Constitution and a plethora of statutes, okay, recognize the Sierra Bar Association. So when you have regulatory bodies or when you have parastatal bodies, that statute will tell you that there will be a member of the Sierra Bar Association representing the bar. So it is so for us, it is what is already in black and white, what is provided for by the law, is what we are working with.
So in other words, GLC doesn't recognize.
So I've just said it's not about recognition. I know all of the people who are there, the Trailblazers, the Marrahs, and the others. I know all of them. These are all my friends, my brothers and sisters. So we are working according to what the law provides. So it's not really about whether you recognize or you don't recognize. Okay, so there are laws, there are statutes clearly, like Mr. Fatoma will again say, make provision for representation of the bar, on certain boards. So that is what. And when you look at the Legal Practitioners Act of 2000, it is clear that the body that sits as a disciplinary committee, the representation to that body, you have 6 members coming from the Sierra Bar Association. So in other words, the Sierra Bar Association should elect and nominate those 6 members to serve as members of the disciplinary committee. So really, it's not about whether I or the GLC recognize this or not. As a matter of fact, I've seen some members of the GLC, who were also who attended, the program of the Lawyer Society. So it's not about recognizing or not. And we are all lawyers. At the end of the day, we are all lawyers. But over and above recognition, you have said so much. Mr. Marrah has given a lot of responses. There would never have been in the first place a Lawyer Society if Mr. Marrah would have emerged the winner, or if they did not have any disagreement with the process. Okay? So if they did not have any disagreements, so for instance, Madam Oasei Kamal emerges as the winner, or Madam Tuma would have emerged as the winner within a process that they consider as regular, then there would never have been, to my mind, a Lawyer Society. So it will not be the correct picture to pretend that, we formed this association because it is given by Constitution that anybody can belong to an association. So if in their minds that the process was regular, then there would never have been an association, of that nature. Okay? So what I will say, now that we have the Lawyer Society, we, for instance, as a regulatory body, we had gone out of our way to make sure that we bring these people together, the 3 parties, the Tuma-led executive, Marrah, Mr. Marrah, and Oasei Kamal. But unfortunately, we're not able to get them to the table for them to, see reason why they should unite and fight the common cause.
Is that the
But I would say,
the
quickly,
solution to the problem? Unity.
we had Mr. Marrah alone, who actually cooperated with us to some length, to some extent.
Is that the solution to the problem?
Well,
Unity. You said to get them.
No. Yeah, because you see
but the issues they have aren't disunity, are the conduct of what happened in Kenema.
Yeah, I just said that.
It seems we, as a country, we're getting a pattern where when things happen and some members say this has not been done the right way according to our provisions, we tend to sweep it under the carpet and call everyone to a table now in a unity agreement without dealing with the main issues that led to the problem. How do we keep continuing on that path?
Yeah, so, when my first shot when we started was that we all as lawyers should really feel embarrassed and ashamed of what transpired in Kenema. So it is first of all recognizing and accepting the fact that...
But nobody has called those who were in charge in Kenema to be held accountable for what was done. One side have their own submission that things did not go as are supposed to go according to the M&A of the Bar Association. Some of the executive members of the Sierra Leone Bar Association currently, we have the PRO who himself sat in our studio and said yes, he acknowledges that there were issues with the conduct of that elections. But how come nobody is talking about those people who conducted the elections, bringing them to book to discuss what was done right and wrong? That part of the conversation is conveniently swept under the carpet, yet there is call for unity. How does unity solve the problem when nobody is talking about what led to the problem?
So there are two things here. One, first of all, we attempted as the GLC to bring the parties together. And the intention was, first of all, to address, the wrongs, and then move forward to now make recommendations and move forward, with as an association, SLPP. But then the second thing is, we are lawyers, okay? And if we feel aggrieved about certain issues, say for instance, the elections, we went to Kenema, McKinney, wherever, and we see that the elections did not go the way they should have gone, there were irregularities, we know that our best shot should be in the court. So one would have expected those who, Mr. Marrah and others, to have taken the association to court.
So for the
trying to nullify whatever may have gone wrong.
For the patterns that we've seen in Sierra Leone, take Augustine, Marrah, and those who contested the elections aside.
Okay.
The members of the Sierra Leone Bar Association, shouldn't you people be concerned about the conduct of how things went on in Kenema? Understanding the pattern we see, which is the reality of APC and SLPP in Sierra Leone, one person comes to say, we're doing this, years ago, someone started it, they laid a precedent by XYZ. To eradicate that becoming a precedent, wasn't there a need for the lawyers, even if those who contested did not take it to court, to challenge what went on to say, this association has an M&A and this is XYZ laid out as to how things should be conducted? Beyond those who contested the elections, for the members themselves, for the integrity of the association, and for the precedents.
Yes, so you see, we actually have a very poor M&A, which we have to review, to make sure that some of these issues, there are provisions for some of these issues as to how do we resolve or address those issues when they occur. But the M&A is really short in that regard. But as I was saying also that we have the upper arbiter, the court.
What's the effort to fix the M&A if that was part of the problem?
Well, I hear that the current executive,
take those who have issues with the elections aside. There's Lawyer Society, they're moving on their own path.
Yeah.
But what happens if we get to a situation where it is APC in power and they want to go and do the same thing that was done in Kenema last year, just to come back and say, in 2024, this is what was done?
Yeah, you are so right. It's not the end of Lawyer Society. In other words, there will be a similar body created later on.
No, that's not the angle. I'm focusing on addressing the main problem. You spoke about the M&A being part of the issues.
So I just
what are the efforts to get the M&A, to get the right people to the table, getting the conversation, to understand the issues in the M&A, and moving to a point like the APC and SLPP had issues with 2023 elections. It led us to a tripartite committee. We've got recommendations. They're moving on. What has been those actions by some of the bodies, like even yourself? The Attorney General's office has been calling on the parties to come together and unite. But what is unity if the fundamental problems, again, are not addressed? So your institution as well, getting them to solve the problem.
We wrote to them as individuals. I think I've just said that. We wrote to all of them, all three of them, as individuals to say, we intend to make sure we fix this problem. Let us come to the table. We are colleagues. And let us iron out our differences.
I know you've said that, but what I'm asking is your efforts with the current Bar Association, because only the Bar Association executive has that power now to go back to the body and find a way to fix the M&A. So that's what I'm asking you, not so the, I also said to you, general, all of them.
Okay, before you interrupted, I said, I hear that the current executive of the Bar Association is trying to put together a team to review the M&A, because the M&A is really a problem. It cannot really solve these problems as it is in its current content. So the Bar Association, as I understand it to be, is trying to put together a team that will be able to review the M&A. I'm sure once the M&A is reviewed and it is registered, the amended M&A is registered, then that will have been one of the ways, a step further forward for the association to resolve matters of this nature when they occur. But again, my concern is really over and above all of these shenanigans. Lawyers, we are really bigger than this. We are bigger than this. So we must look at the broader perspective or picture. We have membership. We have members who, they have so much to learn in terms of advocacy, in terms of strategic litigations. These training exercise is what we should first of all pay attention to, and then at the same time we should understand that a bar that is divided cannot survive, because if you put out in a press statement condemning government, for instance, it will be, let's say Mr. Marrah's organization put out a press statement, they will say, oh, it's actually from the APC angle. The same thing with the Bar Association. So who actually is the biggest loser or victim? It is the association. It is really the association. So they must see reason why they should come together and make sure that they address these issues. And I agree with you. You have to touch the raw nerves. Touch the raw nerves and try to address them. Call out those who are responsible for whatever went amiss, and try to now forge a way ahead. Because we cannot continue to recount all of these issues forever. We must be able, at some point, to have a middle ground and address the issues head on. Otherwise, nobody will win. Law society will not win, the SLBA will not win. At the end of the day, the labeling will continue. You cannot stop people from labeling, because we see the videos, we see those who attended those programs. We have seen the Bar Association, we have seen the Lawyer Society, we've seen those people who are in attendance, we've seen the comments that are coming from the associations generally, both of them. So you cannot fault people for labeling you, when in fact they are seen clearly on videos, on tape, clearly seeing and hearing or reading, things that content are coming from your associations. So at the end of the day, it is the bigger picture. How do we come together as a group? Because the association is a group. And I must also say that, or note that for British West Africa, what has been the picture, or what has been the history, is bar associations. We normally get lawyers society in Eastern African countries, but predominantly when you look at the West African countries, what we have as a body of lawyers is the bar association. So in Sierra Leone we have the Sierra Leone Bar Association, and actually the Sierra Leone Bar Association is the oldest association in Sub-Saharan Africa. So we expect that they should be able to exercise patience and candor and maturity to be able to bring parties together. There will always be contentions wherever. I have witnessed elections at the Bar Association, at the bar, where people have become really disgruntled. They are really very much vexed about the outcomes, but then they stayed and they fought the cause. Because at the end of the day, one person or one executive will not be there forever. As a matter of fact, it's just 1 year. 1 year. So quickly, please, let me ask them for clarification. Now that Mr. Marrah made mention of that you should not, I mean, anybody can join and so on and so forth. But then I have gone through the constitution, the Lawyers Society constitution. It talks about you are disqualified if you are a member of another association. So maybe there must be a kind of clarification. Because I was expecting, for a very long time, we have labeled the bar as not being able to work, as not being able to actually discharge its mandate, because we see politicians are infiltrating. We have lawyers also who are politicians, who would infiltrate and try to make sure that the bar does not actually execute its mandates properly. So I would have loved to join the Lawyers Association if they would have been able to address that aspect. Making sure, because now as it is, as I understand it quickly, let me answer that you respond. As I understand it quickly, I can be a member of a political party now, whether national level or constituency level or whatever level of any national political party. Okay, as far as I'm not a member of any political board or any government institution, I can still be a member of the association, and I can still contest for position, in the lawyer society. So it doesn't matter whether I belong to party A or party B. But I thought that this was one of the things that they wanted to come and address. But now if you see it in the constitution, then it becomes worrisome for me. Okay. Who is, somebody of a critical mind that would even love to join that association. Okay,
Marrah, you'll respond before we come over to Fatoma.
Yeah, I think very quickly, I think that's a misreading of the constitution. So it says for disqualification of members, if you belong to an association or an organization which values fundamentally contradicts the values of the society, then you can be disqualified. And we have members who belong to political parties. It's an open door, and members have every right to belong to political parties. What we have shut the door on is those members who hold executive or leadership positions in political parties cannot be part of the leadership framework of the Lawyers Society. That is what we have said. But if you are a lawyer who belongs to a political party, you have absolute rights to apply to be a member of the Lawyers Society. There's nothing stopping you. But once you belong to an organization whose values contradict the core values of the Lawyers Society, you would not be a member. And so far, so good, the fact that we have hundreds of members who are part of the Bar Association will tell you that we have not seen the Bar Association as an organization whose values contradict Lawyers Society, right? Nowadays we live in a society where these, terrorist groups would come up. We don't want members who belong to those groups or violent group to now be enlisted into the Lawyers Society. So that's the only door that we have closed, so that we don't allow people who belong to these maybe terror groups or what other groups, not just terror groups, but also violent groups. We don't want those persons to be members of the Lawyers Society. But if you're a member of the Bar Association, you're free to join. If you're a member of a political party, you're free to join. It's only those who hold executive positions in political parties, leadership positions, that are disqualified from being leaders at the Lawyers Society.
Okay, Fatoma, you've listened carefully from both speakers. Do you think that these bodies are far from, getting respite? Because by the looks of things, it's like the ruling government is in full support of the Silent Bar Association, taking into account their recent dinner held, Fatoma.
Okay, first let me talk about the other issues I said earlier on, that these two groups, they are actually not comfortable with governance and democratic practice.
In what way?
And like, Mr. Lansina just supported my earlier stance that the Sierra Leone Bar Association, M&A, doesn't serve the purpose of the current corporate affairs guidelines for company M&A. It doesn't, right? And so it's disadvantaged members who are in the Bar Association. So meaning, democratically, you are not catering. One of the fundamental elements for a bar association or law society to be formed is to look for the affairs of the members. So you have an MAA that disadvantaged members. So that's one. And then we go to the lawyer society. If you are saying the very side both of them have been talking about, that's in their constitution, Article 12, 5, it talks about conflict. So the conflict, if there is a conflict in an association that you belong to, you are not allowed to be part of this other association. And there is a clear line of conflict in both operations. There's a clear line of conflict when each body within the same legal purview catering for the welfare of their members, supposedly catering in terms of helping the people of this country through government to reform laws that are in the best interest, protecting their membership and some portion of the general public. And so then if you are in the Bar Association, it has some little bit of conflict with what the Lawyer Society...
Fatoma, just for clarity for those watching, so that 12.5, it reads,
yes,
is not a member of any association, organization or body which could affect or conflict with the proper and efficient discharge of his duties as an executive board member of the organization.
Yeah. So, I mean, that disadvantage, him now, he said he's still a member of the Sierra Leone Bar Association and now the president for Lawyers Society. There is a conflict in both operations, right? Unless otherwise. But then let me come to you.
But it says discharge of duties as an executive board member of the organization.
So does that tell you that I can be a member of a political party and still be a member of the board as executive member?
No, I mean,
I'm
not saying he's an executive board member. He's the president. He should be part of the executive board. If we go through their organogram or their organizational structure, he's here to clarify. I mean, based on what we are seeing on surface lens, that's based on what we are saying words. So, I mean, let me go.
Sorry, quickly, Mr. Sorry, I have to interrupt. Honestly, I mean, I've been at the bar for a very long time.
Okay, wait.
At least 10 years. Quickly, please. my accusation of the discontent that over the years that has engulfed lawyers is that those who are members of political parties, national political parties, they have found themselves, within the executive of the Bar Association, and that was frowned at. So I was expecting that an alternative association will be able to address that mischief. We'll be able to make sure clearly it's stated that you cannot be a member of a political party and still be an executive member of the Lawyer Society. That is the clarification that I seek.
Okay.
All right, so thank you. So coming back to your question with government, I mean, it was clear here on your programs, one of your sister programs, when you called the 3 contestants for the Kenema election for the Bar Association, and you have 2 of them declaring their background and their connections to the 2 big political parties in this country. And one of them happens to win the Bar Association. And so what does that mean? And she was.
Did she win elections?
I mean, based on the Sierra Leone Bar Association announcement, that she won. Based on the Lawyer Society announcement, Marrah won the election, elected. And some members of the public are saying they have not seen.
Well, they said there was no election held.
Where was that? In Kenema?
In Kenema.
I mean, listen here. Like I said, based on information on the surface, the Bar Association informed the people of this country, either deceitfully or truthfully, that they won, they held an election, and someone emerged as a winner.
In your independent view,
Now, one, I condemn the election here on AYV, and I still stand on that. And the best way, coming back to Phoebe, concern about accountability, we in the civil society space, we cannot be, including the bar association, we are all in the civil society space. We cannot be calling for accountability at a higher stop. Then we have low appetite or a zero appetite for accountability. And those who perpetrated that particular disrespectful actions against the members of the bar association and disrespecting, the people of this country would have held accountable. And a structure and a system within the bar association would have been able to enhance the people around. But this is a situation, even the so-called elders failed to galvanize based on morality. Because most of these people have pitched a fence already, sidelining others and supporting others. So why do you think either Marrah will feel safe to confront certain elders in the profession, to actually put him down, to convince him on a peace table, when those individuals already before and now have aligned? Why do you think Tuma will also be feel convinced and comfortable with certain so-called elders to actually sit around to discuss this issue? We compromise our integrity over little things in this country. And this has been the problem. That's the reason why we have shortage of moral guarantors at all spheres of life. Because for certain things, things that, they should align. If I don't align, my home is not going to have food. So I need to align. It's quite difficult to get professional. When Marrah was appointed in Sierra Leone, one of the Sierra Leone board from this very government, some of his colleagues at the EBA was not comfortable with him. But what is wrong for someone like Victor serving as a board chair, as a commissioner at the Human Rights Commission? One, let's look beyond his political affiliation, but him as a professional. And while Marrah was appointed, let's look beyond his affiliation to friends in the SLPP. But let's look at what professionalism he will bring to the board. So we have created a situation, the moment you have hired as a technocrat or as a professional with this administration, even your own friends, if you belong to that party, they will call you a name that even the street guys, we always have easy way of pronouncing it, that you're not snitch. You are two-sided. So you battle with that. Even you don't hold a political party card, but just because you take up a job.
What do you think is the way out of this? Peace negotiation talks or accountability and reforms?
For me, it's accountability. Reform needs to come after the accountability. Like I earlier said, that election, would have been cancelled and organize a fresh election in a transparent and more fair manner, right? So whatever aggrieved party goes their own way, that's their fundamental right. Augustine says that, we have a shrinking space in Sierra Leone, but we still have organizations registering in Sierra Leone. I know I'm a victim. Every time we pick up national issues, even with this regime, I receive death threats. I have them on my phone. Even with the judiciary, when we were doing things, they were planning, orchestrating how to send journalists on me. I have the text. I have the text with me from their WhatsApp group, judges' WhatsApp group. I have text from the securities, how they plan to arrest me. I have text, right? I'm saying this publicly because I'm 100% have my evidence. So when we raise issues in this country, we are subjected to attacks. So that is a whole challenge. And then there is also a lack of this phenomenon of public education on right issues. On right issues. we claim our right and fail to recognize our responsibility that carries along with our right. It's very clear in every country we have freedom of expression, under rule of law states, freedom of expression. But those freedom of expression, even in the United States, even in the United Kingdom, they comes with a clear burden of responsibility. And when you cross the line, which is the law of that state, automatically the law enforcement will take charge of that issue. We saw the incident, protests in America, when the protesters went beyond their mandate and entered into the Congress. They were arrested and charged. But the United States is boasting of what? Free speech. We saw in England 2008 to 2009 when protesters demonstrated and burned down police vehicle, right? At Westminster, in front of the Westminster. And those people who were involved, they were arrested and charged to court and sent to prison.
Not for their speech, for their actions.
No, for their actions. But let me tell you this, there are still people...
Free speech is verbal, not you destroying or damaging things.
I mean, it's all part of freedom of expression. So then you have people who will do placards in the United Kingdom or US. The wordings on those placards will immediately order their arrest, right? But there are others who will do the same thing, they will never be arrested, because they are within the confines of the law. So if we want a democratic Sierra Leone, we also have to contribute to a way that we can responsibly hold our government without jumping the line. I've been a victim, arrested in this country, detained, said I've committed treason, but I've never shied away. In fact, I confronted my oppressors. I said, well, look me now, now kill me.
We've had a lot of messages on our Facebook page. Let's see ways to go through a few of them. First from Ernest from Mosdale says, can Mr. Marrah confirm the rumors surrounding inviting members of the government to the AGM and the government did not show up?
Lolo Gasparini says, Mr. Fatoma is saying something factual. The political landscape in Sierra Leone is really sad at the moment.
Lolo also mentioned that politics don't divide with bad Nasalon, a very small country. Now we don't allow few politicians for divide we. Then don't even successful for make guy bad Beogetski the increase Nasalon a very bad and sad.
Lolo Gasparini again says, freedom of speech has always been liberal mythology. The ruling class decides who has freedom of speech, and it's been that way as long as there has been class societies.
So Mohamed Bakore says, how often we sweep aside injustice in the name of peace, but it is always fragile peace and allow peace. Because for as long as we confuse to untangle the knots, for as long as we refuse to untangle the knots of injustice, real peace cannot strive.
Ngoroji says, lawyers in Sierra Leone really owe that country a lot. They seem being above the law. They always create discomfort in Sierra Leone and go scot-free because they think the law is in their hand. 99% of lawyers in Sierra Leone go to the bar because of politics. They haven't any trust amongst themselves. Everyone is a suspect of being a member of party A or B based on their ethnicity. It's sad.
Solomon Kolka says, SLPP is pauper. They will not stop at any length. APC knows that. And the count for 2028 is begun. They will split from those we relied on down to the electorate.
My last pick is from Joby Bangali Jr. He says, Fatoma, for tell us since we know the art aid for that safe.
Let's allow you to respond as time is not in our favor. You respond, either of you will take. Yes, Marrah.
Just to confirm that we indeed invited the members of the government of Sierra Leone, notably the Attorney General. We did not only send a written invitation, but also personally, myself and a small team of the interim executive went over to him to confirm receipt of the invitation. We also invited the Chief Justice of the Republic And all the judges, 30-something judges, unfortunately, none of them showed up. None of them showed up, including the Chief Justice. And the Attorney General also did not show up. We know that the Speaker of Parliament is also a lawyer. We sent invitation to him, and also lawyers who are also members of Parliament, we sent invitations to them. The Speaker, the Attorney General, the Chief Justice did not show up at all. But invitations were sent to members of the government of Sierra Leone. Not all, but significant amount of key position holders, particularly those who are lawyers as well.
Any other comments that you wanted to respond to?
I think I've spoken about this false narrative of A versus B or SLPP versus APC. Because what that then creates is that nobody will come up to complain about anything, because you risk the label, oh, but then APC, let them, etc., etc. But people have concerns beyond the labels. Get to talk to them, get to hear them out, right? Somebody, I think it was Fatoma who spoke about, oh, why would it take so long to even contemplate holding credible elections? We came back from Kenema in May. Members did not suddenly spring into action. They waited for a while, sent a notice of requisition to the executive, held an extraordinary general meeting in July, set up the caretaker committee, were taken to court at the end of July, complied with the court process, argued. Since October, that ruling has been reserved to date. No ruling. But we don't want to talk about this. We want to dance about all of these issues and say, oh, they are APC faction. It's not correct. It's about time that we spoke about the problems head on and be clear about the wrongs. Once you do that, if people take other steps now, you know that they are just being mischievous. But if you do not fix the problems and then you jump about labeling people, it means you're part of the problem, because you don't want to speak clearly, comprehensively, and call a spade a spade.
Yes.
Yes. You know, luckily most of the text messages we are just, you know, collective messages, not specifically directed at us as GLC. But then we urge, you know, we urge the Sierra Leone Bar Association to expedite the amendment of their M&E. It's a company, the SLB is a company, and it must be up to date. That M&E has taken over 20 years, and so they have to deliberately go back to the table and try to see how they could amend, you know, having a broad spectrum of the association, so that we have an M&E that is fit for purpose, that will be able to address the issues. Because, for instance, it's only when you go to, or during an election, that you agree on who becomes the commissioner. You know, the M&E should be very clear as to, I mean, having a period where you appoint the commissioner for the elections, you know, a team, and then that team will now prepare the way for the elections. So that when you go to the elections, it's really just straightforward.
Like it's done in sludge.
It's not a comparison, please.
Sorry, I have to put that in.
So, but anyways, I mean, they have to look at the M&A and really also reach out to aggrieved members of the bar. We are all members of the bar, you know, and we have to me, really, it's about the bigger picture, the membership, you know, education, continuous legal education for our members. It's very, very important. We have to also look at the fact that as a bar, we are the constitutional conscience of the people. We should be able to stand up tall, you know, to address those issues. We should also be able to have the strategy of engaging, you know, state officers or government, the government generally, when there are issues of infraction, whether it's constitutional infraction or human rights violations, as the case may be. We have to be able to have a methodology that will really serve the people well. Because, I mean, press releases, the Bar Association has written a dozen of press releases. I mean, we don't see the change. But if we are able to litigate, if we're able to engage the actual authorities to get them to do the right things, then we'll be serving the people, I mean, correctly. So again, the Bar Association has to understand that M&A is no longer fit for purpose. They have to deliberately take steps to address, I mean, to amend and register an amended M&A for the benefit of all.
Yes.
Yeah, I think both parties need actually to work on their internal rules, which I think is quite important. And what they are missing is this. You can be a company, register as a company, and meet the statutory guidelines demand from the Corporate Affairs, and the Companies Act. And then you have also, as a membership group, you have also a liberty to have what we call bylaws. And those bylaws now specify directly what activities this organization and their members should do. And the bylaws, the Companies Act guidelines will not be specifically looking at a membership organization. It was set up either a corporation or a corporate organization. So now you follow that, but then you have other bar associations across, or lawyer society across the world, they have the statutory registration guidelines, and they have what they call their own internal bylaws. And it's also part of their their rule system. But what we have in Sierra Leone, the moment they have satisfy the M&A criteria, they wash their hand off and sit down. And even that M&A doesn't really speak towards the democratic means of how to treat their membership. It becomes problematic. So they keep coming back and they keep saying that we have no other option, this is it. There are several options. Why can't us learn from other countries? Go to them. And globally, using template is not a crime. Globally, using template is not a crime. So universities use other universities' template and modernize their courses, but it's not a crime. So why are these people really tormenting themselves? Then, I earlier talked that protection of human rights and criminal justice are core, elements of rule of law system. And any governance system that disrespects those provisions are doomed to fail. So either the governance system of an association, the governance system of a state, if you think criminal justice system, and this idea in this country where people then think, say, the civil society space is wider. It's no crime for us to have another lawyers forum, even in this country. But what is fundamental is this. 1991 and beyond, the government of Sierra Leone specifically recognized the Bar Association as the only professional legal body that they were called on the table to discuss and determine governance affairs of the state. Right? So, but there is no line drawn for you to have even lawyers forum tomorrow morning. Nobody has the power to say, no, you did duplicate. Look at what the members will gain. That's what the members determine. Now, people who are in lawyer society, you have the president, the vice, and the PRO and the secretary. I mean, there is an area that gives a specification of them, representing. So, but in the Bar Association, you can be 10, 15 years or 25 years, and you have an experience, they will send you to PPRC without being part of the executive. They will send you to a certain corporation to actually represent them. So, what are the values these two associations given to their members? This is what should determine the members to join either of this group, if even we have lawyers forum tomorrow morning. So what they offer to their member, like I said, they look into the welfare of these members. They look into the legal education. And they also should help the state to strengthen the legal education for future lawyers. They should help. This is the role of the bar. So if we're having a bar fighting over a corrupt, destructive, unfair electoral process system, and without actually having a deep consideration as to how we should push the interests of the country. I mean, it's a little bit challenging for us as a country.
Thank you very much, Abdul Fatoma, Victor Lansana, and Augustine Sorie-Sengbe Marrah, for your time this morning joining us on Wake Up Sierra Leone.